C, C. 1, 2, C. Perfect. Hey, how you doing? Good, good.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna tell the stream real quick that we're gonna have 5 minutes. So people can get. All right, everyone. We're going to try to get started here in about 5 minutes. We're going to give you. I know that line's long, and that's okay. But we're a little bit over time already. So, and we're going to start in 5 minutes. If you're joining us online, we apologize, but we will get started in about 5 minutes here. Thank you.
start at 12:10? On streaming, no, we're going to start at 12:10?
Chad, I want to stand.
You want to stand?
I want to stand.
Oh. That's 12:10. Do we need to say something? Yeah. All right. Good morning, church. Good morning, Evolve family. Hey, I know some of you are still in line to get your food, but we want to go ahead and get started. So, just so that we're mindful of your time, we don't want to eat up the afternoon. We wanted to just share some really exciting news with you guys, have a family conversation, and then get you out onto your weekend. So, as many of you may know, we actually, on January 5th, we soft launched the new church, Evolve Church.
Well, let's get everybody's attention first. I don't think we're.
Am I not talking loud enough? Check 1, 2. Sorry, we're going to go ahead and get started. We know you guys are still getting food. Please continue to be comfortable. Fix your plate, and if you need to go back for seconds, please do. We want this to be informal and casual. Yes, Paul. Thanks for the applause. So, as I was saying, some of you may not know, if you're relatively new around here, on January 5th of this year, we did a soft launch of a new church called Evolve Church. And we have been moving working hard towards doing a hard launch of Evolve Church. And we want to share some information with you about that today. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the background. We think we've made a lot of forward victories, and we just want to share some of that information with you and have a two-way conversation today. So that's the purpose of this meeting. And as you remember, when we did the soft launch, part of the conversation was that we wanted to create a new communication style where we give you more information. We have a two-way conversation with you so that we're not just meeting behind closed doors in a dark room and you're wondering what's going on with the church. So I think our last family meeting was almost 3 months to the day. We wanted to have these once a quarter, and it's just part of our overall unified communication system that we're trying to employ so that we can give you information on a regular basis, you can give us feedback and reach out for help, and so that we can give you care. So it's a part of a holistic plan, and some of that is what we want to share with you today. You guys have anything to add to that introduction before we move to the first item up for bid?
No, I think that's good.
Okay, so actually, you can tell I'm not a musician. I don't even know how to get this thing out. So the first item up for bid, actually the first item on our agenda today, and we have like 8 items we want to talk to you about today. So as you guys know, those of you who have been around here for a while, this team was once larger. We are an elder-led or elder-protected church, and we believe that leadership by plurality is biblical and is also best. So this team of 3, when we met last time, we told the church that we were planning on adding to this team. So one of you guys want to share an update on that point?
Yeah, so actually some really cool things. I am a musician, so my voice is very loud. I'm sorry.
But very good one, too.
Yes. So the cool thing is that as we left that meeting, we really started praying really hard, just asking God to really reveal to us what that looks like, with the elders. And what does that look like as we continue to grow as a team? One of the things we wanted to put into place was to bring on, someone that feels the calling to be an elder and that we feel the same, to get them into a place where they can spend some time with us and really just continue to pray and ask God if that is truly that will, because it's a big deal, right? So it's a big undertaking for someone to accept, and we want to make sure that we put all the pieces and parts in place to give plenty of opportunity so that when we feel that is the case, we are all in one accord. So we're all in agreement. It's not I felt this or I feel this or what it may be. So the really cool thing is we did have a couple of gentlemen that have joined we actually got it done, and those guys have joined on with just that first portion, that first step, saying, hey, I really feel called in that way, and I want you guys to help me through that, and let's see what that looks like. And then once we get further along, if it continues in that path, then we'll bring it to you guys and really talk about it a little bit further, and then we'll after that we'll place them, into and set them apart within our church. So it's really a cool thing. We talked about it, and now it's happening. So the two guys, I just want to introduce them to you real quick. One of them is James Behringer over here. James. And the other one is Mike Velasquez. Good.
You're not even going to make them stand up?
Huh?
You're not even going to make them stand up? I mean,
that's weird, though, right? That's like we said it was low key. It's no big deal.
Okay.
So so that's the really cool thing. The other thing is that we really wanted to let you guys know, because I don't know if it, for us it was just a natural progression. For you it may not have been, but we want to make sure you understand that Wes and what he's been doing and everything that he's been doing here, just leading us, it's just been amazing. Just to see God work in his life and then see us come around that and have others, with us. So we want you to know, Wes is our guy. This is what we want to see as we move forward. We want to make sure that is, we don't know what God's going to do in the future. No one does. But we all feel that this is the path that we need to go at this particular time. This is the season that we're in, and this is the direction we're going to move forward. So we just wanted to make sure that we let you guys know that. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah,
okay, well, by a show of hands, who is interested in reading our new church bylaws? Okay, Paul, okay. Yeah,
I just want to point out one thing. I just want to
I'm sorry, go
clarify
ahead.
with the new elders. They're in a candidacy process, so I want to make it very clear so there's no misunderstanding. So we feel that God has called these two guys in to our elder team, and that ultimately that there is a call placed on their lives. But that process is going to take the next 3 months. And so we take a 3-month period of time where they're in with us as part of our meetings. They go through that process, and then at the end of that process, they evaluate what they think about that. We evaluate it as a team, and then ultimately, if we both feel like we're moving in the same direction, then we will present them to you as the church. There will be a 3-week period of time where if there is any issues or any concerns or anything that you guys feel that we need to know, then you will bring that to the existing elder team. We will take any of those things under advisement, and then ultimately, as long as that process goes smoothly, then we would move forward with ordination. So I just want to be clear there that that these guys are in process, and encourage them, and that's part of how that process will go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that whole process has been bathed in prayer on the front side by us trying to recognize the call on those men's lives. And I think their families have been praying about this. They are continuing to pray, and as we move forward. So it will be a process, and it will be openly communicated to the church family.
Yeah. So here's something that's really cool. Are we good on that one?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. That was good. I like that. I like the name of that process. That's good. Now, here's the other thing. You mentioned it, Chad. Bylaws. We talked about that a few times, and you probably heard about that. And we were really struggling before with our bylaws and what that looked like as a church. Don't get freaked out. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because what we've done is we've gone back now, and we have basically gone back through, revised, if you will, and even rewritten the bylaws that are here for Evolve. And we're really excited about that, because it's a very super important thing to do, because in a church, you want to know what you're part of. You want to know what we believe. You want to make a commitment to us. We want to make a commitment to you. And together as the church body, as the bride, then we can all move forward together. We have those bylaws in place to say, if this happens, this is what goes on. If this is what's going to happen, this is where we go. And that's, I don't know about you, but that just, it brings such an extreme freedom and security, having those bylaws. And those are completed. They're available for you. Where did we say? It was on the app?
Yeah, so the new bylaws are on both the website at the bottom of the About Us page. So if you go to our website, ievolve.church, and you go to the bottom of the About Us page, you will see a link to get to the bylaws. Also, on our app, if you go to the About Us section on the app, the bylaws are listed there as well.
Yeah.
If you have really good eyes, look at it on the app because it's, well, on your mobile device, it's kind of small. And how many pages is it? 70?
483. Just
No.
kidding. It's not that long.
Actually-
it has a ton of information, but it's all good information, and so we really want you to have an opportunity.
Yeah, and in fact,
How long is it?
it's very concise. I think it's 21 pages. It's
Something
a
like
PDF.
that, yeah.
So we wanted to put all the essentials in there about who we are, what do we believe, what is the polity and what is the plurality of the leadership, how do we handle difficult situations. But we didn't want it to be some legalistic document that was 500 pages long. We believe it is what is necessary. So like Wes said and Jeff alluded to, on the website and the app, it's there. We'd like you to take time to look it over, read through everything. Because obviously, moving forward, we would like your guys' agreement that you agree to what is in there, and we will abide by it, and you will abide by it.
Yeah, and I think this is to really clarify what's going on here is that when we launched Evolve at the soft launch at the very beginning of this year, we specifically said and called it a soft launch, saying that our plan was always to hard launch, and I think at that time we had put third quarter of this year. Now, we missed that. We understand that by about a month.
COVID.
Yeah, but I would say that I'm extremely proud of us in the fact that despite all that this church has gone through over the last several months, that we're only missing it by a month. Yeah. And so what the hard launch is going to consist of is really two things. Evolve no longer becomes just an arm of, we were kind of to do it quickly for the soft launch, we had created a doing business as under the old church name. Now we are creating, as of November 1st, which is now the hard launch date, official date of Evolve Church is hard launch, November 1st, we will officially become a brand new church, a brand new entity, officially on November 1st, which is a huge deal, and so those bylaws play into that. Those are our governing documents. That is how we will be organized. And so we want you to have plenty of time to review those, to look at them. You have about 6 weeks, roughly. And what we're doing is, when we hit that November 1st date, there is no more old guard. So what I mean by that is that we're asking for your commitment. We have some paperwork today. We want you to look at those bylaws. By November 1st, we want you to commit with a new membership covenant by November 1st. So if you had membership in the old entity, that will not transfer. We want to be very clear about that.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, dun, dun, dun.
No, it's not that.
I need those effects. So we're asking for you to read the bylaws. We want you to understand them. We get it could be boring or whatever. And then we've got 6 weeks that we will meet with you. If you have any questions about them, if you're like, man, I don't understand this, or can you talk to me about what this exactly means? We want to meet with you. We will be open. We'll schedule time to meet with you before that period of time. But we're asking November 1st, that is the hard date.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? Because the bylaws are rules that we impose upon ourselves, right? To protect the congregation, to protect the church resources. And so I think it's important that you have some understanding of what we believe and how we operate, so that when you do agree to membership, that we can all abide by how we do ministry and how we reach out to pursue the ministry in specific ways, that we're all in agreement on that foundational level.
Okay, so have we talked about all the boring stuff?
I think so. Well, let's talk about the exciting stuff that's going
Yeah.
to happen before November 1st. So prior to November 1st, the hard launch, and so these are the things we wanted to share with you. So in the background, we have been doing this. A lot of this is the staff here on campus during the week and Pastor West, but the elder team as well. We've been reviewing contracts from bidders. We have some construction projects coming up that we're excited to share with you.
Yeah, so what has happened is we have secured and signed contracts on the bid for the roof and the air conditioning, which as you walk into this facility, you can see clearly we are in dire need of. So those things are contracted. They will begin the roof and the two main air conditioners here for this facility on November the 28th. So look forward to that date. We're going to get to change the roof color, which is awesome. Sorry, what did I say? Oh my gosh, September. Man, I'm losing my mind. I'm sorry. My wife's got me on this crazy diet now, and I can't remember half of what I'm supposed to. But yes, September the 28th. Thank you for clarifying that. September the 28th. And then from there, we'll move forward into some painting. And this place is going to get a makeover from the outside. I mean, it is going to look like what we've dreamed and envisioned it could look like for some time.
And we as a leadership team, we realize that there are other environments that need a lot of remodeling and refurbishing. This is just step one as we continue to, secure the funding to do these major projects. Any of those, obviously, I don't know if you've ever dealt with a roof this size or these commercial type air conditioning, but it is not cheap. And you can see all those in our line item budget as well. But just so if you have a child in one of our back room areas and you think, okay, well, how come we haven't refreshed or restored those areas? Those things are on our radar. But first of all, we have to get this roof done before these air conditioners fall through the roof. And in a couple of them, we've been trying to work as MacGyver to keeping us cool in the summer. So they're on their last legs. So that's why those are at the top. I think those things, along with the facelift to the front of this church, you're going to see some major changes around here. And these are things that have been needed for quite some time.
Yeah, so I think you'll be excited to actually invite people here because you won't have to worry about, oh, there's something falling off the building. How does that look? So that's going to get corrected. We are well aware of those issues. And finally, we're being able to move forward, so it's very exciting. And we just want to get the shell of the building up to par where it should be, and then we can start moving forward into those environments.
Yeah, I agree. So some of the things and the reason that we wanted to talk about that first, is especially for the launch and what that looks like and the pieces and parts that have to go with that, is because we really wanted to share with you additional information, what we would consider groundwork for growth, and understanding what we've been doing and working on as a team and others, all of our leaders coming together and helping with this has just been an amazing thing. So we wanted to take you through a few things. Maybe we have a list of 30, but I think we may want to narrow that down just a touch, or I could, that kind of thing. But, we would have to take you through, but it's, we've talked about this, and we need to understand this as a church. Evolve Church is moving forward. This is where we're going. So we have to make sure that we understand that. We just want to share the exciting news with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these things, like I said, we put together a list of 30 things that have happened since January 5th and a lot of these things are probably not things that would excite you. But a lot of them are fundamental, foundational things. We continue to pray that God will send people here, that lives will be changed. But the truth is, if God had sent us 200 people a year ago or 500 people, on a Sunday morning, new visitors, we were probably not prepared to take them in, to serve them properly. And so those are the foundational things that we're trying to build in the background. And that's what a lot of this list consists of. But many of them are just new communication tools and techniques that we can engage people. We can, say for instance, I'll just give you this one off the top of my head. The new texting, what's it called? What's the technology called? It's short code texting. So if you want to plug in, if you're a brand new visitor to our church and you want to connect, you text iConnect to 77411. Or if you need prayer, you text I pray. So these kinds of tools, we'll be communicating those out in new ways so that everyone is aware of those. But it gives you a path that if you need help, if you need prayer, if you need to connect, if you want to serve, you have a way to easily reach out, and then the appropriate leaders within the church body can connect you in the right way and serve you where you're needed.
Yeah, and along with that texting element, I know that one of the things that we consistently struggled with in the past and that we heard from you was that our communication back to you was poor. And so we have worked really hard to open up new ways of communication. So these video things that we're doing, the way we're doing video, we're adding that in where we're texting it out. The texting itself, so we have a text number for the church. Yes, Cindy's thumbs up, yep. So hopefully you guys have seen those text messages come out. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you haven't seen those messages, then you need to get with us. And there's a couple of ways we can do that. And we're like I said, we're still in the infancy of this. We just launched the short code element, which we haven't fully announced to you. We're announcing it to you now, but we're going to have better ways that we're going to communicate. It took a little bit of time to get that up and running. We've done that kind of in a soft way, but we will be rolling out that whole text component to the church. But being able to text, we used to send emails out to the church, and we know how email goes. Don't look at my inbox because, I have so many kind of extra emails sometimes it seems to get bogged down. I go through them, I look at them from the church, but I have several other email accounts that don't get that kind of time put to them. So I'm sure many of you have those. So when we would email before, I mean, maybe 20, 30% of the church gets notified on something. Well, now the texting service, I mean, they say that 90% of all texts, I think, get read within the first 3 minutes that they're sent. I mean, it is drastically different. So hopefully you've seen that. Hopefully you're excited about that. You can text us back as well. You can text to the main church's number, the 407-656-1523 number. You can also text to the short code, 77411, even if it's not a short, even if you don't text the keyword. So if you text us in any way, shape, or form, someone in this office is going to get that information. And we're going to do something with it. We're going to be proactive about the communication with you. So that's a huge step for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just, like I said, I'm excited about these new tools. They just make sure that things aren't falling through the gaps like we've done in the past, right? So that we don't have a request for something that doesn't get addressed. So the other thing that I was really excited about, over the past, actually I'm trying to think of we brought a youth pastor on, as you recall, right? And he was part-time. Well, first he was volunteer. Yeah, Jeremy Halterman, Pastor Jeremy. He's up in the booth running the sound currently. But it's kind of exciting, because obviously with COVID, we shut down the youth environments for a short time, and they're now relaunched. But during that time, many of you may not know, Jeremy, for a long time, he was bivocational. He was working an off-site job. He was volunteering here. And then at some point, we brought him on part-time. We were able to begin paying him a paycheck. But as of now, within the last 3 months, he's actually now full-time, on staff, paid pastor. And I think the exciting part about that is, not just having another staff member, but he has been an amazing asset to focus on, and he has the freedom to re-envision those environments in new ways that we can engage children with the gospel. So I think that's the exciting component. He's no longer trying to split time amongst doing his day job and then coming here to prep a message, and then so he has much more freedom and creativity. He's engaged the students, and I think there's probably some more details you want to share on that.
Yeah, he's helping us out in incredible ways here in the office beyond just the youth side right now. He's been an integral part of helping us move forward creatively with some of the things. You see these bumper videos that we have. He's behind all of that. He's actually redoing our website, which is something that we have on the list that we will have ready for the hard launch. The website's getting completely redone. It's getting a whole facelift to it. Jeremy is behind all of that. And just additionally, I don't know, if you don't have a kid in student ministry, I'm just so proud of him. I just can't believe what a resource that we have in Jeremy. He's totally revamped the way that we're doing the student ministry and the weekly Wednesday night meetings. I mean, he's creating brand new video and content. I'm watching that these kids watch, and he's implementing this with the small groups. It's where these kids are at. They get to watch a video, and they're fun, and they're exciting, and they're silly, but at the same time, they're getting the gospel to them in ways that they receive it, in ways that are brand new. I mean, I don't know that there's many churches, and I'm going to say this with a little trepidation, but I really don't know there's many churches that are doing some of the stuff that he's bringing right now to our student ministry in the size that we are. I mean, I really think it's incredible what he's doing. I just want to give him a hand for that and how he's leading it.
And I think the exciting thing about that is, so as an elder team, when we were praying, asking God to reveal his new vision for us, I just wanted to read this statement to you. And I think the things that we're just talking about with our youth program, it plays directly into, well, I know that it does because this is our long-term dream, but it says that we want to actually be leveraging our authentic, changing life stories with culturally diverse families who are uninterested and uninvolved with the church, so that they take significant steps on their path to spiritual maturity. So we believe that the message is timeless, but the methods are not. And so these things these leaders are being empowered to use creativity, to think outside the box, to bring the timeless message in new and engaging ways. So I think that's the exciting part.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal too. I mean, what Chad was referring to was, a plan that we look at constantly, and we talked about it a little bit in the past, but if you haven't heard about it, we talk all the time about 30, 60, 90 days, 1, 3, and 5 years, and that's future talk. That's where you start talking about how things are going to change and how they're going to evolve and how we're going to make, even bigger strides in what we're doing today. So, we have this list of things that we were going through, and we've talked a lot about those items as well. We implemented ETC. ETC is a new implemented program that we have on Tuesday nights, right? That we've talked through. You talked about the website, the relaunch of the student ministry, created student ministry calendar, right? Events through January, I think it is, or something like that. I don't know. Set tentative grand opening date. We already did that. We know the date. I mean, those are things that are a big deal. These are things that we list and we try and work through, and we make sure that we keep moving and moving and moving. This is pretty cool. You probably saw it. We've had some feedback on it, is the implementation of the Wi-Fi Connect system. We did get a little bit of information back on that. That's that splash page or whatever it is now. If you guys notice that when you come in, instead of just putting in a password, you get this page that comes up. What that's designed to do is just an easier way to log into the Wi-Fi here and make sure that we have some information input. It's very similar to what you would see at about any other large building or maybe a hotel or something like that just is a way to get onto the Wi-Fi here. Why we did that? Well, we needed to upgrade the Wi-Fi because we implemented, again, at the beginning, a hybrid worship service. We still have that going on. We have people at home that aren't able to come in or don't feel comfortable yet to come in, and so we're still providing that service, the worship service, for them where they are and where they're able to log into. So that's a big deal. Well, in order to do that, our bandwidth was really, really tiny, and we had to increase that. We had some issues getting all of that data out, and it's just a very boring conversation. But if you want to know how that worked, call Chad.
And I'm the tech guy, and I'm going to stop you right there. So.
But it's a big deal. It makes a difference, and those are the types of things we're talking about.
Yeah, we just basically want to celebrate a lot of these victories with you that you may be unaware of. Like one of them, I think, which is really cool. You mentioned the calendar. In the past, a lot of times our calendar, the events would get updated on the calendar, a week or 2 weeks ahead of time. And as Jeff said, throughout the remainder of the year, all the events are on the website and the app. And a lot of those events are to those 5-year goals, those dream goals. They're intentionally designed, like let's take one for instance, building relationships, right? Relationships are very important to us. That's why you'll see the quarterly family fun nights implemented on campus, family feuds coming up. We did the trivia night previously.
What do you guys think of those? If you've attended, that's pretty good stuff, right? It's super fun.
Yeah, we didn't even really touch on that, but that family game night is something else that we implemented this over the last 3 months. We have another one coming up this coming Friday, by the way. Don't miss it. This coming Friday, family game night, and it's going to be Family Feud.
But I think these things, whether we're talking about the event calendar or whether we're talking about our youth ministry, but the other thing that I want to share with you is that we've developed a systematic teaching plan, which basically what it does, it maps out the year, and basically we are teaching the things that are being taught from this platform are intentionally designed to address certain topics, and there's a flow and an intentionality that's bathed in prayer. We're not just like picking a series and throwing a topic up here. We're trying to equip you with the information you need to hear based on a strategy that has been prayed over and sweated over and planned through. You guys want to add anything to that? I think that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal.
We haven't
because,
had that in the past.
a lot of times we think, how many times you've ever been in listening, no matter how long you've been in church, and you've listened to a pastor and they're talking, and then at the end of that, you say these magic words that we hear in church world, he was talking directly to me. Anyone heard that message? He was talking to me. He wrote that message for me. No, he wrote that message with the guidance of the Holy Spirit. He wrote that message knowing that there are people in the same place during the same time that's going on in their world. It's the same thing going on in your world. And that's the importance behind it, is because it's driven and shows that we don't just walk around and say, hey, what are you dealing with today? Cool, we'll teach a message on that. It doesn't work like that. And so I think that's exciting to hear and know that there is planning put into that. And as Chad said, bathed in prayer. And what does that look like? What it also does is it also supports the mission and vision and values of Evolve Church. That's what we want to make sure happens. Who would want to be part of an organization that says, this is what we believe and this is what we teach? It doesn't make any sense. And so we want to make sure you're aware of that, just knowing that we put a lot of time in that, especially Wes and Jeremy and staff, just going through that, saying, hey, does this make sense? Is this where we're going? Does this match 30, 60, 90, 1, 3, 5, mission, vision, value? That's a lot of information, but it gives me comfort, and I hope it gives you comfort knowing that we have a path. We know where we're headed, and that's where we're going. So that's the fun part about it.
Yeah, and as your elders, I mean, we are called to equip the church to do the work of the ministry, and we can't do that if we're not getting on our knees and pleading with God to show us exactly where we need equipping, how we can equip you so that we can do the work of the ministry. I mean, that's been consistently, I think, one of our issues here as the church is reaching outside of these walls. And so our plan is very systematic. It's designed to equip us, but then there's also a quarterly flow to it where the series flow through a focus on myself, others, and then God. And then this kind of theme repeats over each quarter. And so we've intentionally planned those things out, and then we look and see exactly what does that mean and how that works out. You're going to see that over the next year as we continue our teaching series. And then it also allows us to coordinate with all the other ministries here. So it'd be great if we were all on the same page. And it's already been kind of working out that way over the past 2 weeks. It's really interesting that Jeremy and I, we've been actually teaching the same ministries, our same basic messages. Our youth are getting similar messages that we're teaching here locally or here from the platform. So it's about making sure that we are equipping all of us to do the work of the ministry. And so there is intentionality behind that and planning behind that.
Well, I'd like to, before we move on to the next section, you reminded me of something. So you said, so the things, we're talking about the roof, we're talking about a facelift to the building, we're talking about air conditioners, and we also have started the bid process for a sign, a modern LED sign out at the road. So those things are all awesome and cool, right? But I think you said something outside the walls of this building, and I think that's a lot of where our focus has lacked as well. And there's a couple of cool things that we have that you may not be aware of, and I'm actually going to let Wes, so there's a group of people that have been meeting here on this campus once a week, and that you, as a church family, we have been serving them and providing them. It's a way that we're serving people outside of the walls of this congregation. And also, can you share a little bit about that, as well as maybe the mission focus that we're moving towards?
So for me personally, when I came here, one of the things that I wanted to see was us, and I know it's the heart of this team as well, but we want this campus to be vibrant throughout the week. We don't want this place sitting empty all week long and then just come together on a Sunday or a night here or a night there. We want this place to be about getting the gospel and the ministry of Jesus Christ to this community. So we partnered with a group called Classical Conversations. They're a homeschool group. They meet here now Thursdays all day. They're here from 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. There's about 70 kids here, and then some adjunct parents and all those kind of things. We've actually done it to be an outreach to the community. Actually last week we had some kids that came as a result of that to the student ministry. So we are going to do things to reach out to this community. We are going to do that. We continue to do that. And so that's one of the ways that we have initially done that. I think missions-wise, this is something else that you need to know that's going on. It's started. It's in its infancy. But we have been a Southern Baptist church. We've been a member of the Southern Baptist Convention pretty much, since we've been our inception 60 years ago. We for a time, and for some long time, I don't even know exactly how long though, we hadn't been contributing to the cooperative fund, which is how Southern Baptists do missions. And by the way, let me just clarify this, if that makes your skin crawl. I get that the Baptist world, sometimes we have a bad affiliation with this, but the Baptist is not a denomination, it's a convention of churches. We are completely autonomous. The only reason Baptists come together is to do missions. That is the only reason we come together. That's the only reason we give to the convention. So we started 3 months ago actually giving to the cooperative program. Again, it's a small amount, but we are actively, with your gifts and your tithes, we are actively now engaged with Missions at Large as a member and cooperating financial member of the Southern Baptist Conference. And I think that's a huge thing for us. That's a first step. And we want to continue to move in that realm where we're going to start partnering with them in all kinds of ways to reach this community. We don't have to invent the wheel. This is what's so awesome. They have programs that we can step into as a church to affect human trafficking in our area, to affect homelessness and the needs for food, to reach out for disaster relief. I mean, these are things that we need and we deal with right here in this local community. So you're going to start to see those things even more prevalent in what we do moving forward. But that's a big deal. That's a big change.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited about that too, because I don't want to be a navel gazer with a lot of knowledge about Christ. You know, I'd rather be the light and be salt to our community around us. Jeff, you're laughing over there.
He said gazer. That's funny.
Gazer?
Navel gazer. That's funny. I like that. I like that a lot. No, here's the thing. Here's the big thing. We all believe and we know that there are people within this building right now and those online and those that God is going to bring that have a heart for missions. We know that. And we want to make sure that we have implemented all the pieces and parts that we can so that we can not be a church focused on a handout, but a hand up. And we want to make sure that that is something that we can do. And I feel that that's, our hearts, and I know that's the hearts of the congregation. And we just want to, like Wes said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to implement some of these pieces and know which direction to go. And then we can go. So I think that's the really cool part.
Okay, so we just wanted to share. I think we touched on quite a few of the highlights that are on that list of 30, but that's not all of them. But just so you know, there is work going on in the background, and we just wanted to share those victories with you, the hard work of the staff and the pastors and the other leaders and volunteers. I mean, I want to say, like, even in our juniors environment, I mean, a whole team of they've revamped some of that environment, and we've trained up new volunteers. So there's lots of exciting things happening on campus. So I just wanted to share that. We wanted to share those things with you. And lastly, we're going to move on to a fun one. What kind of family? You guys ever have a budget meeting with your family and you sit down and decide where money's going to be spent or not spent? So, no? Okay, we need to. You do?
Well, that's because you're married to him. That's why.
I got a spreadsheet for that. Well, first of all, I want to let you know that our bulletin, so in the past, over the last year, this is another victory to celebrate. We have actually started publishing a line item budget, and before COVID, when we're meeting on campus, the line item budget is always available to our partners/members, and generally we were placing it in the cafe because we want to be an open book, open-handed with the resources that you're providing, and this is your church. So the line item budget is available. Nowadays,
it's very easy to read, too.
Yeah, if you're a CPA.
We can take you through it. Don't be scared.
Well, but the other part of that is, like, if you're a person that wants a high-level view of that, if you were to go in, like today, the message was the Bride of Christ. If you go into the app and you click on Messages, you look at the message for this week, and there's a little button there that says Weekly Bulletin. You can click on it. You can see any campus news kinds of things. You can also see our budget needs for the week and any surplus or shortcomings there. So if you just want to stay tuned in at that high level, and then you say, man, why do they need $74,000 a week? Then, actually, I'm not sure the actual number at the moment.
That would be awesome. I like
yeah.
it.
So, but you can actually look, you can see the line item budget, you can see where the money is actually being placed, you can see what's important to us as a ministry. So like I said, we just want to be transparent because it's not our money, and we want to shepherd it well, and we want to be open-handed and obviously open and transparent. So with that, what else do we want to talk about with a financial statement?
So this is going to be something you're going to notice in the bylaws. And I just want to touch on this and why this is going to become something that we engage you as the membership on a more regular basis. So in the past, we have never had a vote of the membership here. And the entire time that I've ever been here, we have never had that. Our bylaws actually required it for a couple things, but it wasn't actually being executed, and that's another reason we've changed some of these things. But now there are several things that we will vote on as a membership because we believe that they're right and God honoring, and we believe that you need to be involved in those things. One of those is going to be an annual budget. Each year, at the beginning of every year, we will present you, at the end of the following year actually, of the preceding year, we will present you with a proposed budget, and then we will actually vote on that budget now as a church because we want you to be involved in that. This isn't just us saying, here's what we need and give to the church. You need to see it, you need to understand it, you need to know what the needs of this church are, and then how God is leading us and the financial needs we need to move forward to actually do the ministry that we're called to do here as a church. So that's one reason that we want to talk about this budget that we're going to have, and you'll see that we'll roll that out as part of 2021 at the end of this year. But currently, I just want to speak specifically to our current budget. As you can imagine, our budget has really been hampered with all of and hit hard with all the things that we've experienced over the last few months. We are taking a step of faith. We feel that God has allowed us, through some of the funding we received through COVID, to actually do some of the things that we've needed to do for some time at this campus. We got funding to do those things at an unbelievable rate. That's how we know it's God. I mean, the $130 some odd thousand that we got to do what we need to do with this campus was specifically rated to COVID. Now, we were in debt before this happened. We weren't in monetary debt, but we were in physical debt because this roof and those air conditioners cost us something. This roof is leaking badly. Those air conditioners, one of them doesn't even work right now. We're limping along on one air conditioner. We just run the fan on the other one. 2 years ago at a VBS, we were told these things were done. And it's kind of like the Israelites in the desert, like our sandals haven't worn out. But we can't live that way forever. And so God has provided this resource, but at an incredibly unbelievable deal. I mean, we've got the terms that we got on this, our payment on that $137,000 is $567 a month. And that's only because of what happened with this COVID thing. So most people are looking at COVID as, man, this was the most horrible thing that could ever happen, and it is. It's not good, but oh my gosh, God used it to bless this church so we could actually start moving and fix some things we've had issues with for some time. But this is the thing, that's not free money. We have to pay it back. Also, because of what's happened with the congregation and COVID and everything that's occurred, I mean, we're down considerably in our budget. And so what we're going to continue to ask you to financially commit to and do is really two things. We're asking you to invest and invite. That's really what needs to happen here. We need to ask you to invest financially and physically. And some of you, I know that you've lost a job. And I know this is a hard, messy thing to talk about, right? But we have to bring it to you as part of this body. You know, we can't currently survive long term on what we're taking in currently. We just can't. But we are taking steps of faith. We know that God provided us some help through the PPP program through COVID and then this additional funding to get this building up to par where we need it to do, that we're taking steps of faith. But we need you guys to take those steps with us. And so if you're in a position where you're able to give or you want to look at that, we would just encourage, I mean, if you're not giving consistently and recurrently, take a look at that. I mean, take a look at how you could maybe give on a recurring basis if you're not currently do that. Or look at your budget. Me and my wife have, and we're giving in new ways and in strategic ways to this church that because we believe in it, because we believe in the mission of Evolve, we have always done that. And I know these guys do as well. And so that's something that we're just bringing to you. But then invite, because we're not going to hit the needs that we have just from this group of people. And we're not called for just this group of people. We're called to reach the outlying people that live in this community. I mean, we have seen an influx of homes built around us. I mean, this road was just widened, a year ago? Claricona, Ocoee, all the new tracks, over more than 6,000 brand new homes have been built in this area. And so God has placed us here strategically. So we would say invest financially, invest physically, and then we want you to invite. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to the people that you work with. God, there's something about people that we're all the same, is that we're all living in brokenness, right? In some way, shape, or form. And people are hurting for the news of the gospel. So don't be afraid. And that's why we're making this investment in the building. It's not so we can have this big, pretty building. It's just not. But I'll be honest with you, I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't feel good about inviting people here when there's things hanging off of this place. I just don't. I think that's just not a good testimony. I think that we should be, in some ways, we should really be worried about what that looks like and what it says to our community when those things have happened. But this is a new day. And so God's blessed us. He's given us what we need, but we have to look at those things and say, hey, we got to get these fixed so somebody would even grace our doors. They would even come in here and hear about Jesus. So we want to invite, we want to invest here. We also have, about the investing physically, we have needs that we want your involvement in. We talked about it last week as being the body of Christ. But man, there are so many physical needs here. Right now, specifically, we need someone else to help us run the soundboard. We were so fortunate that Jack Gooch came in, and he's partnered with us in helping us out. He used to be at Real Life. He does this for a living. He does these shows on cruise ships for Disney. He does the live shows. When you go on a cruise and you see those live amazing shows, he was behind that. He did the castle, the show. If you ever been to Disney and seen the light show on the castle, Jack led that project. We have some unbelievable talent. But I got to be honest with you, he's probably getting a little worn out because he's the only guy right now we have to run a soundboard during our service. So if you know anybody that's technically minded, that has an ear for music, we need help. In all of our environments, we need volunteers. And it's all of the things that we want to do and we want to minister. So if there's any of those, if you have any expertise or any desire even in some of those areas, we need you to help us invest in
Yeah,
those
and
ways.
we've actually seen, there have been people that have stepped up. And the thing is, Israel, an amazing job. He stepped up. He's like, hey, I want to help with that. I want to learn that. And he's done he ran the show today himself, this is the guy running this stuff. So he's doing an amazing job. But here's the thing. Just because you see somebody there doesn't mean we don't need more help. Because Israel's going to want a day to not have to do that. I'm pretty sure. And it's coming soon. We'll talk later. But, make sure that it's that kind of thing because it can be overwhelming sometimes. We do have lives outside of church, even though you think we don't. But there are lives that happened outside of church. So sometimes somebody needs the time off or something happens in their life that things have changed and they need that time off. And we need that deep bench, if you will, to be able to step in and say, we've got it. It's no problem. Take care of your family, take care of this, take care of that. And so that's super important for us as a community of believers. We need you. So if you see somebody there or feel like, we even talked about, Jeremy and the things that he's doing. There's, technical stuff that we need. There's everything that we need from technical.
I forgot to
all
mention
down.
one thing. You're just making it. And this is huge for us, church. We have a counseling ministry that is just starting because God brought us just an incredible man in Paul Lindell that has a background in counseling, has a passion for it. I mean, we in this small church, we have the ability to do biblical counseling here now that we have not been able to ever do. God brought that here during this season, which I think is just amazing, and he wants to reach out. And so we're starting brand new ministries. I mean, things we've never done, things we've never touched on before that God has actually given us the ability to do throughout this season. So if there's something even that God has laid on your heart in this season, man, we want to hear about it. We want you to bring it to us because we want to spread the work of the gospel. We want to reach this community with light. We want to be that light to this community. So we want to continue to affirm that. It's not all of our job to create all those things. We need your assistance and your help from this body to be able to do those things.
And I think all those things, whether you're talking about the financial giving or the time, giving the time, right, those decisions are often bathed in prayer. They should be considered and bathed because we don't want any, like you mentioned, Israel or Jack, we don't want this to be a second job where it becomes a burden for anyone or someone serving in a children's environment. We want you to be, to serve with a joyful heart. And for the 8 years that I've been at this church, I'm a tech guy by trade. That's how I make my living day to day. But for the first 7 years I was here, I helped set a few things up on the tech. But I have stayed away from tech. That's why I've tried to serve in children's environments because I get enough tech during the week that I want to bang my head against the wall. So I understand what it's like that we don't want this to be another job for you. When you come and serve children or serve lunch or wherever you're serving or serving the community around us, we want you to have a joyful heart that reflects Christ in that serving. So I would ask you to prayerfully pray over your budget, pray over your time schedule. Where can you create space? Where can you be more, where can you actually have an effect that's more long-lasting than maybe watching Netflix 7 episodes of Cobra Kai back to back? 'Cause
That's what you do.
Cobra Kai is awesome.
So I think that transitions into our last point of conversation before we open it up to questions for you. And I was talking about an invitation to commit prayerfully and financially. And you're probably wondering what all this paper is up here we're not just trying to kill trees. A lot of things we've been trying to share with you digitally. But one of you guys want to tell them what all these papers are up here? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah, so this is the deal. So with everything we've explained to you, we're really just trying to explain and show you the vision that's happening. That's actually the mission that's taking place. Our mission as a church is to help people in every season of life take their next steps with Jesus. That's what all of this that we just talked about. Some of it's administrative, right? Some of it is boring. Some of it's like, oh gosh, well, we had to do that or whatever. But it still matters. It still matters for us to do the ministry of Jesus Christ to this community. And so this is what I'm putting to you guys today as the church, and us as an elder team is putting to you, is that we want your prayerful commitment between now and November 1st, the hard launch of Evolve Church, that you will prayerfully consider what God is doing here, and that you will start to name certain people, specific people that you will pray with. First and foremost, we're going to ask you to do this. We're going to ask you to pray for the church for the next 6 weeks, that God would raise up the people that he has known and called here for this ministry to reach, that he would start to do that we would have an effect on this community. The other piece that we're going to ask you to pray for is twofold. I've printed out a couple of pieces of paper, and they have neighborhood names on here. And this is what this is designed to do. We strategically took, and Rebecca put on a map, everybody's address who we know is currently committed on a Google map. We dropped pins. And then we kind of looked at these areas to see where are there kind of certain areas where we have more of what I would call places of peace. Where we live, that's a place of peace to us. We live in these areas. And so we took some strategic communities around us, and I said, here, let me print these out. I went on Property Appraiser, and there's names by community. I picked several streets per community that I just said, God, I felt like God was just laying this on my heart. We need to pray for some of these people. I'm not asking you to go door to door. That's not what I'm asking you to do. But what I'd ask you to do is, if you live in one of these communities, I'd ask you to just come up here, look at this sheet, pick 3 to 5 names off that list. 3 to 5 names. Write them down on this piece of paper. Then I would like you to take and think about 3 to 5 names of people that you work and play with. Somebody you work with that you know needs to hear the gospel. Somebody that you play with that you're like, man, I serve on a little league with them. Or, I do this, or some way I serve in another capacity. Or we boat together, or we fish together, or whatever that is, right? And I'd ask you to pick 3 to 5 of those names and write them down on this piece of paper. And then what we're going to ask you to do is, for the next 6 weeks, pray by name for these people. And just pray that, man, I don't know why I picked this name, but I'm asking God to just do something in their life. They may never come here, but you never know if they will or not. This may be the way that God reaches them, that the Holy Spirit is enacting this on our lives to then reach out and pray that God would do a work in their life. And we are not going to have any impact in this community without it being bathed in prayer. It's just not going to happen. And so what we're going to do is ask you if you would partner with us and commit to pray for these 6 to 10 people over the next 6 weeks, and then pray for the church as we prepare to launch and do Evolve Church specifically to this community. Now, in addition to that, just so you know, we're going to have a couple of prayer events over the next 6 weeks where we're going to do some elder-led prayer, where we're going to ask you to even bring these lists back with you so we can engage and lead you in prayer for the church and the community over the next 6 weeks. So we are prayed up and asking God sacrificially to do a work in this community as we reach out with this hard launch. So that's what we're asking you to do, and for you to partner with us.
Well, I think you made one statement. You said if you live in one of these neighborhoods, but if your neighborhood is not represented on this table, what would we ask people to do?
Yeah, so if your neighborhood is not represented, this was a lot to put together. We picked kind of some strategic neighborhoods. I don't live in any of these neighborhoods. That doesn't mean that I'm not in this. We would just say these are strategic in location to the church. So if you don't live in one of these neighborhoods, we would ask you to either, one, pick some people in your own neighborhood that you can pray for, or you can add and pick one of these communities and start praying for them as well. So I don't want anybody to feel slighted if your house isn't in one of these communities. That doesn't mean anything. Again, my house isn't in here, but I would just say we're trying to start somewhere. We're trying to start somewhere and ask God to do a work where we start praying for people in specific ways for God to reach out and do something unique.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Anything, Jeff, that he missed there you want to add to that?
Nope.
No? Okay.
And then finally, there's one last piece
Okay.
before we get there. When you come up to do that, we got something really cool for you. This is kind of what I was announcing on the video. We have finally got, and I got to see if I can walk over here without tripping, all right? We have finally got some car stickers or just stickers in general for everybody to replace the old stickers that you have, right? That actually are the true of all stickers. These things are cool. You can put them on a cup. You can put them on your laptop. You can put them on your car. Get what you need for these stickers. This has the website address of the church, and I believe we're so, I think our logo is awesome. It has such meaning behind it with the path journey that we didn't talk about today, but we've talked about in past meetings. There's a uniqueness to it, and it's specific. So come up here and get your sticker, and this will be another way that people will start to see the name of our church and evolve throughout this community. What else do we have?
I think that's it. I think, so the last thing, obviously, we obviously don't want this to just be a one-way conversation. We're trying to be mindful of your time, and it's already 13:04. That's 1:04 for you civilians. No, it's not. But, yes. What's that? Women's group?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. This just was brand new. So they asked me to do this. We also have a brand new women's life group that's starting the week after this week, correct? A week from Thursday. It's going to meet up here at the church. Andrea Behringer and Lucia Lindell both are heading that up, and so I'm excited about that. We've heard from some people in our church that the women have really missed having some life group interaction, and so that's going to get kicked off as well. So that's a brand new thing as well. Sorry about that, Andrea.
Okay, well, with that, no, that was actually really good timing because that's what we want to open up the floor to questions. We do have one microphone placed over here. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask of us or ask any conversation with the church, we'd ask you to just step up to the mic. And that way the people watching at home online, because we are streaming this on YouTube, they'll be able to hear the question and hear Jeff's response. Hey, Larry, can you please step to the microphone? I know it may be difficult to get out of the aisle there. Thank you. Yeah, like I say, we just want to be sure that, I guess I could repeat the question that you asked, but I don't want to be the only one yelling into a microphone, so.
All right, is this better?
Yeah,
Hey, that's
Okay.
perfect. It's your worship team audition. Go ahead.
This has been on my mind, and God has put it on my heart that I feel that our men need to get back into proxy, and I am taking upon myself to volunteer my time to get this going again in any way, shape, or form that's needed.
Awesome.
yeah, I appreciate the heart behind that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. No, we definitely need to get that restarted, so I'll reach out to you and we will get that figured out how we're going to get that kicked off.
Yeah, Larry, we appreciate that commitment as well. We know it's very important, and obviously, Wes and I, we've championed that cause for, and Jeff has too as well. But when we launched Proxy, I know it's been a crazy season. We haven't met in quite a long time, but I do appreciate the heart of it and the commitment, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to take leaders such as yourself to stand up and say, "I'm here. How can I serve? How can we best honor Christ in that way?" So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Please, will you?
It's mainly for the online. We may be able to hear you, but if people are joining us online, then they wouldn't be able to hear you.
No, I just have a simple question, but the ETC, I didn't know much about it or how it works. So there had been some messaging this week, and so I was kind of confused as to what it was.
Okay.
If you can give a little bit of better description of what it is.
Well, I'll start out, and then since Wes is teaching it, we'll let him fill in the gaps. But for me, I've been attending ETC with many of you as well, and it doesn't obviously, but it stands for Equip, Train, and Connect. And what it is we've been it's about building relationships, it's about connecting with other believers, but we've also been learning fairly simple tools that basically empower you to share your faith and live out your faith in real and authentic ways with other people. So in your workplace or someplace like a sports league or something like that, where you may interact with other people that may be believers or non-believers, may have a lot of knowledge about Christ or no knowledge of Christ. It's given you very down-to-earth tools that will allow you to share the gospel with people in real and meaningful ways. And I think for me, it's encouraging as well, because it's similar to a life group in the fact that there's some teaching components, but there's a lot of conversation. We actually teach the tools to one another after we've learned the tool, and the tools we're basically sometimes we may go through the same tool for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So if you haven't been and you want to join, you can pop in at any time, because we are starting new tools and new conversations on a regular basis. It's not like, well, I've missed steps 1 through 17, so I'm going to be lost. That's not the case. So. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, what we've done with, and since it started, in the middle of this COVID thing, we didn't initially create childcare, and so what we were doing is we started ETC with the intention of, if people needed childcare, then we would address that at that time, and we would figure that out. But yeah, we can absolutely accommodate that, because we don't want anybody to be left out because of that. So we'll have to figure that out, and I think there's creative ways that we can do that. But yeah, it's to even kind of piggyback on what Chad was saying, it is a discipleship program. I don't want to call it a curriculum. It's really more of an experience. It's teaching us really how to understand some of these things that we talk about here on a high level, but at a deeper level and personally. It helps us kind of tie those together with some images and some ways that we can tie Scripture to them, and then how we understand our faith for us personally, and then ultimately how then we could explain that to someone else in very simple tools. When he says a tool, we mean like there's literally something you could draw on a diagram for something that's based upon a question somebody asked you about, how do I learn how to pray better? I don't really understand how to pray. So how do I pray? Well, we have a tool to walk somebody through how to pray and so you gain knowledge in that yourself of, I never really understood this, or how do I read the Bible well? Or, there's many type of tools like that. And then they're kind of split into two ways. They're the tools that are about the character of God, so it's about the being with God for us personally, and then about the competencies of Christ. So then how did he work and do his ministries, and what does that look like for me and in my own life and in my context and in my job and in my work? How do those things play out? And so that's what that's really all about.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? No? All right.
Nobody wants to walk to the mic.
Well, I guess we could have passed the mic
We
around.
got an amen. Did you hear that? That was awesome.
Well, just so you know, the reason we're not trying to be rigid with the simple placement of the microphone, but so we want this experience. We realize that we've been in communication with people that are obviously at home, especially we have some elderly people that still don't feel safe in this environment. So we basically, if you're standing at that mic, you're actually, you can be seen from that camera, you can be heard online. So those joining us online, we just want them to have the full family experience of being in this room with us so that they are staying connected. And I see Junior Seau has a question.
I actually have a comment.
Okay.
The bylaws, we did that earlier on.
Yes, sir.
A couple things about that. I know you worked real hard. All of you guys have worked really hard on these. Bylaws represent, for me, is what I'm accountable to you for and what you're accountable to me for. And we need to be accountable to one another. We need to say, hey, Mike, I saw you at the bar the other day. Were you drinking? Me? Bar? Drink? We also need to be accountable to one another, how we treat one another. I know sometimes I forget to be friendly, and I forget to love on you. And so that's part of our bylaws. They tell us how we should act and what we should believe. And a lot of that is, I found in my life, is working into the bylaws. Some of the bylaws don't really affect me, I think, but then I learn if I really, really understand them, that I need to do them. And it's like anything else. We just need to be doers of the word and not just hearers. And our bylaws give us a place that's flat and level. We're all the same in those. And so I would say I'm an agreeer with the bylaws. Wes and I have talked about what was going to go into the bylaws and what's going to be there. So in as much as I agree and I will sign that form, if you sign and agree to these bylaws, then I know exactly where you stand with me as a brother and sister in Christ, that you're going to believe as I believe, and we're going to act together under that. So I just want to say I'm really deeply appreciative that we have the bylaws, and I'm deeply appreciable that these gentlemen and all of the people that are coming aboard and everything here, we're accountable one to another. So let's start acting like that and doing like that. So if and I don't mean run around and tell the person next to you what their sin is. I mean, I can always spot my wife's sin a lot faster than I can spot mine.
Amen.
It's not for spotting what's wrong, it's spotting what's right. So, again, I'm encouraged, and I look forward to the next 2 years. I enjoyed the last 3. But 2020 can just go on somewhere else, and let's move on. So anyway, again, thank you, and let's be accountable to one another.
Thanks, Mike.
You want to lead us out in prayer if we have no more questions? You want to close us up?
Yeah. Do I have to pray in front of everyone? No, I'm just kidding. Is there any other questions before we? Yeah.
I'm a little too short for this, but you were saying about how you guys need more volunteers to do certain things, like with the sound booth and everything. If we want to volunteer, but we don't know much about it, are there people able to teach us about it so that way we can volunteer?
Yes, absolutely, and that's a great question. So as we continue to move forward, one of the things we put into place is the idea of training my replacement. So that's what we want. We want people to be training others behind them and saying, hey, this is what we want. There's also an opportunity that someone may get in there and say, you know what, this is not really for me. That's okay, because I'd rather see someone be willing to learn and identify and then maybe make a change, course correction, so to speak, than others that are not even willing to even give it a shot. But we do everything we can. We have a ton of technology, and yes, it is technology, so there is a learning curve. But the whole design of everything that we do, from a digital board to ProPresenter and some of the planning center pieces that we have for the band, those things are all incorporated together to make everything easier. And so that's the fun part about it. If you can point and click on a mouse, you can run the program. If you have an ear for music, you can make adjustments. It's those types of things. Where Jack comes in and he helps support is all the stuff that gets really deep into the sound, the EQ and the frequencies and all the other stuff. But if we're talking just running the board, it can be done. And that's the whole design of using those types of products. So yeah, it's a good question.
Hi, y'all.
Hey.
Are y'all going to have an age limit? Are y'all going to have an age limit for people who want to volunteer up there? Because my daughter has expressed an interest in helping out, doing that.
Yeah.
And so there you go, see? I also
You got voluntold, see?
voluntold. I also want to know if there is, I know we have somebody here that, I think Vanjie is the one that helps people get assistance with food stamps and so on and so forth like that. Have you ever thought about doing a food pantry and maybe providing meals for 10 families that might last them for a week, especially during these times right now?
Absolutely,
And maybe they could pick up on a Saturday or something like that?
Yeah, we're in the process of working with the North American Mission Board in part of Send Relief, where they will actually bring a truck of food to the church. And then we will hand that out in a strategic way to those that are in need. It's part of this, what I was talking about earlier, and we can engage, and that's already set up for us. There's a plan for that and everything. So we're actually working on that now.
Yeah, and the reason I smiled is we have done the food, we actually called it the food bank. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of pieces and parts that go with that, including those that come and bounce from place to place to place to every church to then take the food and go sell it. So when that starts to happen, we look at those and say, are we truly impacting the community? And at that time, we weren't. We were really challenged with getting food and getting those things out. That does not make it bad. That made it an opportunity for us to learn. And what we've learned is, what you're saying, is we needed a program, something that helps support that in a bigger and better way than than maybe what we had. So that's awesome that you mentioned that, because we used to do that, and just we learned a lot from it, through that. I was front lines with Melinda and her family, and we really felt that we had to do something a little different. And so yeah, I'm excited for that, because that's going to be a bigger impact to the community. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Hey, can I circle back to one thing before, as Andrea comes up to the mic? So as far as volunteers, if you want to plug in somewhere, I wanted to remind you of 2 tools, because sometimes it may get mentioned to someone in the tech booth, hey, I'd be interested in learning that, but in the busyness of what we do, sometimes it may get forgotten. So we have more, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, we have other ways that we would prefer you communicate that to us. So if you would either text iEvolve to 77411, or you can text or send an email if you prefer to weserve@ievolve.church, and just express your interest there of where you think you want to plug in and where you think you could be of service. So I just want to remind you of those tools. Mr. Curtis, you have a question?
Yeah, my family and I, we're new to Florida. We live in Claremont. And so we're kind of traveling around looking for churches. We got invited here from some friends. And the church that we were involved with in Tennessee, we were there for probably 2 years. And I noticed that there was a lack of particular subjects being covered in church because they were uncomfortable. And a lot of them had to do with sexual immorality, had to do with abortion, had to do with a lot of things that I think have been kind of labeled as being political, which I don't think they're political at all. And when I addressed these things to the elders, I was told that they would not particularly talk about those subjects because they didn't want to alienate any of the members, that the church was a place of inclusion, and they were afraid of alienating. My question is this going to be addressed at this church? How are you guys going to cover these sometimes controversial subjects? Will they be covered? And because I think we're living in a society right now where there's a war of ideology, and the church is I think to blame for this. I think the Christians are to blame for where we're at now. If we would have all banded together and stood up together and been unified, we wouldn't be in a place right now where most of America does not have a fundamental belief in God. Mm-hmm. So, I think there needs to be more Christian warriors out there. So, just to be clear, I would like to get some clarification on, is there going to be some discussions about the hard topics? And I'll leave it up to you guys to answer that question.
Yeah, I think we can answer that as a team, right? Because we have wrestled with many of those conversations as well, Curtis. And so actually, it's interesting. If you read our bylaws, you'll see what we believe that we do believe. And there was some interesting conversation. There were some, obviously, we're not a political body, right? We're not going to sit on this stage and tell you to vote for Biden or for Trump. That is not the purpose of this organization. But there was some language in one of our first drafts of the bylaws that kind of tied our hands about anything that may be political speech. And the conversation was exactly that some of these things are politicized by the people around us. We don't believe it's political. Let's take abortion or some of the other things, sexual immorality that you're speaking about. And we don't believe those are political conversations. So we have actually removed some of that verbiage from our bylaws because we don't want to be hampered. We want to be able to speak about truth and light and the gospel in an unwatered down way. We want it to be full strength. Now, we also believe that the same people are welcome in this church. We're going to love them, but we are not going to shield people from truth. I don't know if I'm saying that. It's
No, I
going to
think
be
you're
couched in
saying
love.
it exactly right. I mean, our name, so this is the thing about our name, Evolve, right? People can assume things from our name, but this is what we did. And I think if you get a moment, I would answer your question this. Go back and listen to the first series we did, which is on our app, called Evolve. And it talks about who we're going to be. We are not changing or evolving in the truth of the message of the gospel in any way, shape, or form. What we and why we have this as our name is so that we evolve in the methods by which we present those, and that we all individually, we kind of evolve in our own faith, in the way we progress in our relationship with Christ. That we start out, Paul says, on the milk, right, and we progress to the meat. That's what should happen. We should progress in the process of sanctification. We shouldn't constantly be back where we started. And so that's why our name is what it is. And we will absolutely address those things in the strategic teaching plan. I mean, we have social justice issues in there that we're going to talk about. We have all kinds of things that we will address specifically as the church because it needs to be addressed. Because the church has not, I think, addressed some of these things. I think we're feeling the ramifications of some of these things in our society right now because the church really hasn't spoken on those things to a large degree. And so what I said in our Evolve launch series, what I would still say today is, but we're going to love everybody. I mean, this is the thing. Nobody can start in their journey with Christ until they start, right? So, and you can't start until you're received with love. I can't, if you're living an incredibly immoral life according to the gospel, right? You can't even begin to know that until you're able to come into a church that's going to love and accept you where you are so that you can begin those steps. Because the Bible says we can't even begin that process until we come into the fullness of knowing who Christ is. So I think the church has had this mentality for so long that, well, if you're living this type of a lifestyle, then you need to kind of clean that up and then you come to church. No, this is the reality. Come as you are. But don't stay as you are. And that's exactly what we will continue in. That's the way we will preach and we will teach across the board unapologetically. I mean, that is just how it is. Not because it's my preference or his preference, because this is what the Scripture says. And there's things in Scripture I don't like. But the reality is the Bible says them and we're called to them. And so regardless of what we think it says or how it affects my life, I mean, we have to be looking at Scripture. We have to dive into those things and really pull out the truth of God and profess that. That's what we're about. That's absolutely what we're about. And go back and listen to that Evolve series. I think it would be good for you if you haven't yet. So.
Yeah, it's like January, I think, was the series. Good
Hey
question.
guys, going back to the volunteering thing, just wondering if maybe there was like a list of volunteering opportunities, instead of, especially if there's any new people here not knowing where there's a need, if there was already just listed where there's a need, and even where there's like, how in the kitchen there's sous chefs and there's the actual chef, like, the lead and then the person underneath them who's studying to do that part, if that can be a list, so that way everyone sees it and goes, oh, okay, because something that has burned me in my previous church is, there's 100% in a church, but 20% of the people do 80% of the work, and I'm not down with that. So I want people to be able to feel empowered to volunteer. Don't just sit on that pew, get up and work. But, not everybody knows where there's a need to fill.
Yes, we are working on that. I will get that up post haste.
I was about to say, yeah, that's the answer. Yes.
Well, we're also, just to be honest, Andrew,
that's
because
good. That's right.
And I hate to, this sounds like a crutch almost, or an excuse, but because of COVID, we're and what's happened and kind of the church kind of regressed in number or size or whatever, and some things shifted and changed, and life groups stopped, and now we're trying to figure out how that's going to look going forward and all those things. So we're putting that list together in where we are today.
Yeah,
So I will get that online.
It kind of comes with almost like a rebuild. I mean, it's a piece of understanding of how many volunteers we have to do what, and then where do each of those plug in. So yes, we'll be able to take that, even develop hierarchy if we need to identify what those needs are, and then give supporting documentation of that. Because if you're going to volunteer, you're going to want to know, what am I doing? How much time do I have to commit, right? And when's my time off, right? So you're going to want to know those kinds of things. So we'll work really hard on that to let you guys know exactly where that ends up.
Okay, so I guess if there's no other questions, I saw some people moving, I'm just making sure nobody's moving to the mic. So it looks like that maybe that's all the questions that we have currently to field. Is the elder email address still up and working? Okay, so if there's a question that you didn't want to ask in this forum, as always, like I said, we want to have an open conversation with all the other tools and techniques that we've mentioned to you earlier and how you can reach out to us. We still do have the elders@ievolve.church. If you send an email to that email address, the three of us will see it and someone will respond to you appropriately. So I just want to encourage you there that this conversation doesn't have to end here. We will plan to probably do this again in about another, maybe by the end of next quarter. And in the meantime, we'll be communicating out the other exciting things that are starting to begin to happen. As they happen, some of those things you will actually see happening. So we're just excited to get moving forward and see what God's going to do with us.
Awesome.
Anything
With
else?
that being said, anyone else want to take the microphone? Because I'm about to do the church thing. Okay, cool. Let's pray together. God, we love you. Lord, thank you so much for your guidance. Thank you so much for your provision. Thank you for giving a vision to this church. God, I pray that you will move us all out of the way, that your Son, Jesus Christ, will lead us in everything that we do. God, humble us in these moments. Allow us to humble ourselves, hearing what you're calling us to do. God, let us focus on what the future looks like. God, let us wrestle with our own as we continue to process what that looks like and where I am and what's my piece of this brilliant thing that you call your bride. God, I pray that you will show us and keep us focused in everything that we do, that you will keep any of the distractions and all the other stuff. That God, I just pray that you put a hedge of protection around this place, God, that it is just barred from here. God, that we are all about your business and your business alone. Thank you for each and every person that's here. Thank you for each and every person that's watching online now or later. God, I pray that you will bless their lives and speak to them in ways that they've never seen before. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Don't forget to come to the front here, and you can fill out the names and the prayer commitment. Also, there is a place for you to sign the membership covenant. We don't expect your signature today until you review those bylaws, but there is a paper you can take with you so you have it once you do, if you can make that commitment. So don't forget to come up, get your stickers, your prayer commitment, and the membership covenant. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.